Hello everybody, at Master 1 with Red Dragon Archfiend yet again. We're in Season 47. I've got some completely insane and unhinged games to showcase for you guys today, so I hope you're gonna enjoy them. Let's get to it. I figured we'd just start out with a completely insane and unhinged game against a certain opponent here. Very deliberate that I'm not telling you immediately what the opponent is. We have an absolutely insane hand, and considering he double Fuwalos immediately, I'm like, well, he must have plays, because otherwise that's so risky if I just pass turn, right? So I decide, you know what, one Bestial, one Phalanx is not gonna be enough. I'm just gonna make my entire mega board and then win the game that way, even though he gets a whole bunch of cards. It's not like he could, hypothetically speaking, immediately fusion summon a potential tower monster that has an ability to pop my field and then summon another one, right? It's not like we need to worry about that kind of deck in the meta right now, right? What, Lunalight? Lunalight? Is that a deck? Okay, sure. They impulse here, so I don't get a Dispater, but we still get Auxilla. And as I've alluded to a bit, yeah, we're against Lunalight, and they're gonna start their turn with a total of 16 cards, as we will soon see. Obviously, they shuffle back until 15, then draw one per turn. But in terms of what we have pretty much everything we would ever want, except for the Dispater. Other than that, we have a full power board, and honestly, it's pretty good, pretty good. I feel very confident at this moment. Obviously, my confidence is gonna be taking a hit very soon, as you'll see. So they start their turn, 15 cards, they draw the one for turn, as said, and then that's heavy polymerization. I have to abyss that. That's like no shot I don't have to, and then they stop my Blazer Dragon summon, and then they just have the second heavy polymerization. So I'm just, it's just over anyways, right? He has the Liger answer. Decides to pop my board. Honestly, I don't need to save either of those, because like, sure, he pops, but I've already used the Abyss, right? And he's gonna wipe him out anyways eventually, and I have the guy that can bring back the Scarlight, and I'm not too scared of being lethal either, because we do have the Supernova Dragon we can hold on to at this moment. I'm debating whether I should basically Supernova his entire field, but I'm like, I want to stop the second Liger, I want to hold out onto this, but then when he summons this from the graveyard, I want to return it to the hand. I'm like, no, if I can manage that pendulum scale, that's worth it. That's worth the Supernova usage. Even though he do have a certain card here, the Silver Hound, that can stop me bringing back Supernova, so I need to bait it out. And I think that's a really good way to bait it out, especially since he's already lost his pendulum, right? Then I can bring back the Supernova. Now, the unfortunate thing is that he's now after understanding that that's my last disruption, and he's gonna do everything he can to force it out. As you see here, he goes into an Armorai. Why would he do that? Well, he can go SP. Now, obviously, I'm not gonna get lethal this turn, but here he actually removes the Supernova Dragon. Now, why would he do that when I can get back at the end of the turn? Well, if he returns the Scarlight, I have the protection online for his Liger Dancer, right? The one Liger Dancer he can end up with. And if he gets rid of the Auxilla, I have the whole centur-ion stuff going, so he felt like he needed to get rid of the Supernova Dragon there, and to be honest, I just summoned it back with Red Zone anyways, right? But it does make it so that when he ends his turn, I get back the Supernova Dragon, which will matter. But he had already given up on lethal damage this turn, and he sends these to the graveyard, which is fine, and I just want to make sure the Tudea is already summoned here. So, little known fact you might not realize is, this is not just on your Synchro monsters, it also counts the Tudea. And honestly, this doesn't pop anything, but it gives me the chance to use the Supernova, and I will gladly get rid of all his backward, everything else he has, to make sure that it's just the Liger Dancer, because then, as said, I can use the Red Zone. I don't have to pass over the turn, but I think even if he had an SP Little Knight and my Supernova Dragon, it was just a question of time. Here we got an absolute nightmare scenario of a game. We're going first into a list with this kind of hand, and each of these hand traps are normally known to not really do anything against Maliss. But maybe, with their powers combined, they can actually do something. So I'm making a very deliberate choice here to not Ash Blossom that, so I can draw on a Lockbird, which allows me to save Ash Blossoms for my own turn, where I can use it for one of their traps, potentially disrupting them. That's at least the idea. Now, I'm very good at toggling here, apparently, because they were in the immediate battle phase, even though I have Bestials here. And this trips them up completely because they didn't suspect I have Bestials, again, due to my toggling. So they go Splash Mage here. And honestly, I forgot they added the Wizard here, because this is very bad. Like, I should have just let them do it and then wait for the Wizard. And then hit the Wizard, so they go -2 bodies instead of just -1, right? That would have been the right play. Instead, they go Firewall Dragon, which is kind of fine. We have 2 Bestials. We can try and, like, kind of pressure it anyways, which will force out something from them. And it does. They go for the Heart Scripter, and they even use the Banish because I changed the target to the Heart Scripter, and then the attack resolves. Not really scared of the Firewall Dragon because they do need a Link monster. And I do have the Ash Blossom, so I'm not really scared of their trap unless it was, you know, happened to be an Imperm or something. And now I would go 07 to their 07 if I didn't have the Ash Blossom, because they would have summoned Whitebinder and banished Crimson Resonator, and it would also have made the Firewall Dragon live. Instead, we can just kinda keep playing, and there's an argument that I can discard the red zone for my Centurion plays, but in this case I'm like, well, pure RDA would just win against this Maliss opponent, and it's kinda nice to just show that even pure RDA could have won this match if they had the same situation going on, right? And as a result, I'm choosing not to do the whole Centurion plays, even though, as you can see, they are in my extra deck, right? It's just I chose not to here. I set up the Regained as well, so Bystial Dissipator would have come back if they special summon, so that wasn't kind of the thing that said no there, but then also just having Red Zone is kind of nice, right? And I didn't need it. Bystial Dissipator, Regained, and Abyss would have soloed the 3 cards they would have had anyways, and I don't feel any reason to just flex on them, so I just end the game here. Very nice and simple. We appear to be going second against the Mitsurugi deck. After looking at the deck list, I can conclude that they're running a big pile of, I guess, Gimmick puppet cards as well, so that's worth taking into consideration. Why did I only Droll now? Well, they used the prayers in the draw phase, blocking my Droll, but then still get it off here, and it's fine either way. It completely stops their play seemingly, and I mean, they still have the Murakumo we have to deal with, and we have to try and play around that. I've done my best to toggle off so that they can't see that I have a Bystial, but I would have loved to start my plays with a Bystial here. Instead I have to go with awkward Primera play to try and trip them up. Also, do not need either of these 2 cards because I'm planning to win this turn, and obviously Soul Resonator, already used my normal summon, he's better in the graveyard. And this is where I get my chance to completely trip them up with the Ball Drake, and obviously I'm taking that chance. Now, I did say I'm planning to lethal here, so here's the play I can do. I can summon back the Murakumo, and then I would technically clear their field and have had lethal with the Tudea without archery, but obviously they had the impulse, so I have to go to plan B now, which does require the archery, even though it's a bit of an unnecessary brick. It can come up when you're doing stuff like playing into Maxx here, I suppose. Not that that makes it worth running, generally speaking, but I like the card, it's fun to play with. You may be like, yeah, where's your lethal? And if you don't see it, I'll just say, you do not see the vision. You do not see the Vision Resonator, to be exact, that is about to be summoned here. And the Bone Archfiend kind of set this whole thing up by giving me the extra Red Rising, which let me go Scarlight, and send the Whirloop to the graveyard, which is going to be representing the last 500 damage I need to do using my Scarlight. They don't even get a chance to capitalize on all the cards they drew from the Maxx. We're going first here into a FTK kinda Tearlament deck. FTK, you know, quotation mark, whatever you want to call it. Our hand has no place, and they get to pop off. But you might be like, well, 3 Bystials into Tearlament seems pretty good, It would be if they didn't have the Horus engine in their opening hand. You know, that would have helped, but no, they do. That puts up a lot of pressure, so I just Fuwalos because otherwise, hey, they could see someone, right? Obviously, they have the Black Goat Laughs. They Sail Span, so I need to immediately do a Swarm, otherwise I don't get to summon it. There's the Zombie Vampire. Obviously, I didn't mill anything good. My Centurion engine got ruined from the mills, and they mill a rollback, so now they can roll back the Black Goat to stop another Bystial play. And honestly, that's pretty bad for me. That's why I start with the Ball Drake as well. That way I can do the Magnum out and I get to search a Bystial. If you notice, we're starting to have a lot of Bystials played. Yeah, so there comes the tier plays, and we've already used the Bystial names we have. We don't have a Souvenir, so we can't stop them from summoning the Kitkalos, which means they're gonna mill everything that is... You can already see the FTK condition, right? They have Judgment of the Pharaoh, yugioh Friendship, and to make matters worse, there's the rollback again, so now they have a second rollback to use with it. And obviously, they also have the Fairy Tail Snow and a Shuffler in the graveyard that I need to get rid of, just to be able to have a chance of playing, right? So yeah, they might not be able to win this turn, but I have to force out the snow in one way or another here, like get rid of that. Luckily I got rid of the shuffler that way, so I'm happy with that. Now the unfortunate thing is, here's the sort of FTK they're doing, right, and I'm just summoning the bestials as much as possible because otherwise I don't get to right now. Also get to force out the Fuwalos, which is very important. But then, yeah, now they just get to make a Collider Heart, right, and shuffle back the Nibiru, unfortunately. That's so BM of them, to be honest, just shuffle back the Phalanx that I just sent to the graveyard, but doesn't really matter. I'd rather have they do that than save it for some actual disruption, but obviously they think they've won. They think they've won, isn't that cute? Isn't that cute? Yeah, I know, we're ball breaking them. Huh? No, that's what you're gonna do. Oh yeah, what are you gonna do about the Druidwurm though? Hmm? Yeah, I didn't think about that, did you? He didn't want to send the Fuwalos because it wouldn't be summoned again, and he thought it was safe to just spin back a card, right? No, that backfired heavily on him. He does make a Nightmare Griffin, which is very annoying. I actually thought this also counted normal summon, that it needed to be in a link zone that it points to or whatever, or like something points to it with a link arrow to be able to use the effect. So I summoned the Soul Resonator in that area when I could have just not done that. And I'm planning to out it as well, so not a big deal with the locations here. But yeah, hypothetically speaking, I could have just put the Crimson Resonator in that zone, or like use the Bone Archfiend in that zone if I wanted to, or something. But really doesn't matter. We got the Supernova Dragon. It's enough to lead to them. They only have 2,000 life points. We're gonna be going second into a Nouvelles Mitsurugi deck. We do have a Fuwalos which gets us some draws, but honestly the draws it gets us is not really gonna be that important, because at the end of the day our hand is gonna have so many duplicates that we have like a 5-card hand anyways. Or we will have like more detrimental draws or whatever. Doesn't matter. You get the point. Either way, they are popping off like crazy. Have pretty much everything they want. Vision Resonator does help a bit as a draw, but yeah, we unfortunately won't get many draws because it's not a deck that really summons from the extra deck, but they do summon a few times from the main deck, so at least there's that. I am literally just holding out for a good place to Nibiru them, and definitely isn't now. I'm like, okay, it has to be a long while before I Nibiru them. It needs to be after they've ideally used most of the Mitsurugi card effects. See, there's another bone. So, in the grand scheme, we might have a 7-card hand, but we only really have 5 cards. Feels like a good time to Nibiru, and I don't want to give him the token in case that could potentially make a play. So we just set up like this. Now, in this game I actually learned that this card is not once per turn in summoning stuff. It can keep summoning stuff, and it almost turns out very badly for me, but let's see. I get rid of the Murakomo so they can't do stuff with that. Like, they would be able to maybe summon it back there. Fortunately they pop the Centur-ion standard, but I mean we did do Primera, and now we kind of need to normal summon her to get another one. And there's the Maxx that they just... Have you noticed how I had a Fuwalos result, right? And they drew so many cards they drew into a Maxx. Like they've been... Look at that hand size, even though they went first and played all of those cards, right? I just want to point out how absurd that kinda is. And then they happen to destroy into the Maxx like they did there. But yeah, I've now seen that, yeah, it keeps returning stuff very annoyingly. And because it is Nouvelles, I was of the thing that, yeah, you need to summon it in defense, right? So that they can't do shenanigans, because I'm not gonna read their cards and figure out which one is it that is dangerous, right? They didn't have one of those out, so it's fine, and yeah, we get to pop the entire field, but this seems very annoying to play against, that it forces my stuff in attack. And again, this is where this one card keeps... It would be so nice to have a Maxx rolling here for me, but no, he has the Maxx rolling, and he's the one who's summoning more than me, and it's my turn, you know, like, it's kind of insane, right? Yeah, they have the purification there, so they get rid of my Dissipator very, very annoyingly, so... Trying to figure out if there's any possible place I can do here, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I can set up the Dissipator to summon back on their turn. And then I can make an Auxilia here, and I can kind of try and clear out their board and at least set up for a potential Supernova Dragon on their turn. And that might do the trick. This is fine, we have the Bone Archfiend, we can get back the OG Red Dragon Archfiend, and then we can clear out the board. And honestly, that one card has been so annoying for me, and then they have an EBU anyways. It's like, what's the point, right? Yeah, I ended on, what, 2 disruptions? Red Zone can bring back either Scar Red to pop something or Dissipator, and then I have the Phalanx. So, very annoying, and yeah, they got that Maxx going. But what can you do about it? So, luckily I do have the second EBU here, and I'm just waiting for another opportunity to try and use it on them. And if they do go battle phase early to try and end the game, I have the Red Zone to bring back, and I can also Phalanx, so I'm kinda fine with that. Yeah, so I just debut here, and obviously they have another Maxx, right? Why wouldn't they? Classic stuff. Big debut token. I'm still holding on to my disruption so that I can use it at an opportune time, but unfortunately my opponent drew so many cards off of Maxx, played so much in his first turn, and had so many plays that he ended up timing out. So we're gonna be going first here into Fiendsmith Mitsurugi, and they Maxx us. And you guys might think I love playing into Maxx, obviously I hate it, like Maxx is so dumb, but yeah, I think I had just had a game against, I think, Tenpai or Skystriker where I won the coin flip, and then they Maxx me, and then I didn't feel like doing it immediately after playing into it, that is. So I just ended very modestly, also because I had the Imperm and the Red Zone. I felt like a bit safer to do it, and then for some reason they're running Lightning Storm and they immediately force out the Soul Resonator, very annoyingly. Also, I do not show these replays in order of what they happened, like chronologically. I have this game from, I think, early on in the season, and it cemented a lot of like the effects, so I remember a lot of the Mitsurugi effects, like playing out this game and actually experiencing a lot of what they do, so that it like stuck to my brain for a lot of the other games I had. But yeah, here we go, we finally used the Infinite Impermanence, so no real reason to do anything prior to that, and then they have the Habakiri into full Mitsurugi combo, unfortunately. So yeah, this is a lot of learning things happening for me in this game, where I'm like, okay, I think I understand the deck now. So yeah, I saw the Mad Prayers. I should not be using Red Zone, but I still plan to use the Red Zone on the Murkomo. I have to discard here obviously because Scar Red, so yeah. I should have saved the Red Zone for later. They do play it in the Imperm column though, but it doesn't matter because they still tribute for cost, so it still comes back very annoyingly. Maybe they would have had an Habakiri that couldn't, I guess, attack directly or something. I'm not entirely sure. And they do get rid of the Scar Red as well. Very annoying. Yeah, we draw a Maxx, and I'm actually Ash testing here, so I can Maxx because we did add the Soul Resonator to our hand the prior turn, so everything working out kinda nicely here. Very annoyingly that they stopped the Uber Loop. I kinda needed that to work out for me, but guess not. And then drawing Primera is very annoying. I would much rather have just drawn a stand-up Centur-ion or something, but yeah, it is what it is. And then he gets to summon back the Murkomo with the Mitama, which is infuriating. Decide to try and pop the press, but honestly I should have just gotten rid of the Mitama. But this is a failure to understand that it's not a hard once per turn effect for some reason, you know. I think this happened before the Nouvelles game, so I really should have learned my lesson that it keeps summoning back, but I don't know, man. Yu-Gi-Oh is hard to memorize everything from, you know. Decide to just clear out the board and try and get rid of the Murkomo. And look at the graveyard, I'm like, well, I get cooked by the Fiendsmith stuff. I need to get rid of the Fiendsmith stuff immediately. So that's kind of what I do. And the Bone Archfiend obviously was summoned in defense because I realized my life points is low. So it's like I'm doing some plays and then I realize what kind of state I'm in and what I actually need to do. And honestly, this opportunity is very nice for me. I get to get rid of the sequence. Not that I think they could do anything. I think they have the I guess, the Requiem and the Engraver in the graveyard, but they couldn't really do anything with the sequence in that case then. Of danger anyways. Yep, and then they run straight into the Call by the Grave, which is why I called by the Grave the Engraver, by the way. But yeah, we hang in there. They don't want to get rid of the Duis Realm because then I'll just get rid of the Mitama or something else. And then also, I don't know why, but if IP Mesquina makes an SP Little Knight, I kind of forget that it's immune to destruction, so I will waste my red zone on the Little Knight instead of the Mitama, which is kind of a ultimate play, to be honest. But yeah, I guess also after rewatching this game and also playing through them, right, I really learned that I don't want Mitama to be on the board because it's very annoying to deal with if they have all the other Mitsurugi stuff in the graveyard. Either way. Because normally I get rid of the Murakumo, right? So this is where I get the realization, no, Mitama is really annoying when Murakumo is in the graveyard. But yeah, in the grand scheme, doesn't matter too much. It popped the Magnum out, right? We just bring it back with the Regain anyway, so doesn't change too much, but they do get to fill up their board again, kinda. And there's the Nibiru. So yeah, they just also had a Nibiru. I mean, makes sense, right? They would eventually draw into the Nibiru. Especially when they're thinning their deck so fast. And they had the entire board up again after the Nibiru, very annoyingly. And then OG Red Dragon Archfiend gets rid of a bunch of my stuff, and I'm looking dangerously low on life points here. Luckily, I do have the Duis Realm, but I want to be careful when I use it. I'm kind of surprised he didn't use the Murakumo there, but he wanted to chain the SP Little Knight, I guess. And then I don't want to discard my Duis Realm to get a draw from the Regain, and also to permanently get rid of the SP Little Knight, I suppose. Want to save it right here for the Murakumo, just to get rid of him. Also, I don't know, did he already use the pop effect? I don't think he did. Yeah, he didn't use the pop effect yet, so I kind of don't want to deal with that either. Yeah, we are dangerously low on life points, but we've kind of turned the corner because we have this Peta and we also got rid of the Mitama. So, to be honest, for my turn, it just looks like I'm going to be able to lethal him and the opponent times out, so I don't get to do that. We're going first into a Mitsurugi Ryzeal deck. They immediately Fuwalos me, and I'm considering my plays here. I kind of have to do the Crimson Resonator normal summon to there if I want to make any plays here. And there's an Ash Blossom making my play slightly more awkward. Luckily, I do have access to R3. Summon R3, go Scar Red, and then they draw into a Maxx immediately, so I cry about that. Make this Peta. Not that it'll do anything good for me, but you know, I'm planning to make it into an Auxilla, so gonna have to make some plays here. Sending the Vision Resonator to at least get Crimson Guy Red Zone online. And honestly, our board is looking pretty solid here, except for the fact that my opponent has like the entire deck in the hand. We have a Phalanx, we are gonna have the Abyss Negate, we have access to a Red Zone pop at some point if we get back an RDA. We have the Nibiru, and then obviously we can make the Supernova Dragon here. And this is where we see it's Mitsurugi Ryzeal, or at least the Mitsurugi deck, right? And I'm like, okay, I'll just put the Crimson Dragon on the field, and if he imperms or anything, I kind of want to wait until there's a monster on the field before I actually use it. And I then tag it out to Supernova Dragon here because it looks safer to me. That's Abakiri. I'm looking for a very good opportunity to use the Supernova Dragon here. He's using Exciton Knight here, but he forgot that he has way more cards in his hand than I have on field and hand, so he can't use the effect, so I'm not scared of it. Bit of a misplay from him, but it's easy to forget that, you know, when you're going second, if you resolve a Maxx, then Exciton Knight is not gonna work. Force out the Supernova here, so I just, you know, get it off field so I can bring it back with Red Zone. And I'm not in a hurry to bring it back with Red Zone because I have the Nibiru. I'm planning to Nibiru at some point here, so I'm completely chill. Like, I just don't want them to get their field spell online, and this is where I'm like, okay, I can Nibiru here. just to force some stuff. I mean, maybe I could have waited for the detach, but if I had done that, the cross-out designator would have gotten me good. Does put me at a bit of a bad situation, but hey, he never popped the Auxilia, so I'm fine. He should have done that. Hidden effect of Auxilia protecting my cards, you know. But yeah, then we can get back to Supernova Dragon now, and he's already used all his detonator pops very not intelligently, and honestly he kinda sees that he's struggling a bit in vain here, and he just scoops up the game. We're going first here into an Orcust deck, and we have a very awkward hand that basically dies to a single Ash Blossom unless we call by the Graveyard, which we are gonna do. Would have loved to save it for another hand trap that they're about to play, but you know I don't have a choice here. If I don't do that, my turn is over anyways, right? So we just add a Synchron Resonator in case we need to make a play there, and then they do the Maxx. So we have to do Unlock Bird. I kind of do it immediately, hoping that they'll just scoop considering I have plays, but they're not scooping, so we just keep playing. Now, normally you should never really just make a Supernova Dragon like this, but I have the Nibiu, I feel safe. I also have the Chain and Synchron Resonator to abuse with the Red Rising Dragon, so that if the Nibiu stays on the field, right, I can make Auxilia access some Endian that way via the centur-ion stuff, and that makes me feel a bit safer with this kind of board where I have Negate, I have the Nibiu, and I have the Supernova Dragon board wipe, and then they get rid of all my disruption except for the Nibiu, while also setting up the entire play line with Orcust Crescendo. So that's very sad. You know, some decks, they don't need to wait a turn for their stuff to be active. They can use it immediately when it goes to graveyard. We have to wait for the Red Rising Dragon to be active, you know. It is what it is. He also gets rid of my on-field recursion, which is annoying, but we have the graveyard stack. We have the Bone Archfiend, we have the Red Rising Dragon, and we're planning to maybe set up a very good Nibiu here. Of course, unless they have an extender, which they do not appear to have. Now, there are many ways to win the game here. And I decide to start out with just making an Auxilia, right? But then unfortunately, they call by the Grave the Bone Archfiend, which is kind of fine. We don't need him, but, you know, it's still annoying. And maybe it would have been better for him to immediately do it on the Red Rising if he knew that I could use its effect like this. But I don't know how many times he's had an opponent use Red Rising Dragon on him. I would say never, but yeah, doesn't matter. I end up fumbling my place here, but I should have easily put down the Crimson Gaia before making Primera Primus, but obviously that board is completely empty. There's nothing to really fear, so I've already seen many different ways for lethal, which is why I'm getting so conflicted, because, you know, can't really mess it up in any way that stops my lethal. So, you know, I don't do anything fancy here. I could have done so many fancy things, but I end up not doing it and just go for the lethal. So there you go. We're gonna be going first here into a Mitsurugi Ryzeal deck, and they immediately Fuwalos me. So I'm thinking about looking at my hand here, and I'm like, well, I can actually play around that because I have the Droll. So I'll just do all my plays, and then I'll draw an Unlock Bird myself on my own turn, just so you don't get any draws from the Fuwalos. Even get to have the red zone and everything, so I'm pretty stoked about that. And then I am making a Supernova Dragon as well, just in case of a Nibiu or something crazy, you know, so I at least have something. And I'm thinking of making up for the missing Abyss by making Ryzeal Dragon on their turn, obviously. And here it was the idea with the Pader and the whole thing, but I'm seeing some toggling, so I try and bait out the Nibiu here. And it actually works, so I don't have to commit the Ubu Loop yet, which actually gives me the chance to make the Ryzeal Dragon on his turn by using my Supernova Dragon as the Crimson Dragon target. So kind of worked out that way by baiting the Nibiu with overcommitting a bit. So yeah, just gonna make the Crimson Dragon, and I actually let it sit because maybe there's a chance he targets it, but no, he went for the Supernova Dragon, forcing one of those banishes out, and I just set up the Blazer. So we still have the Blazer again, and we still have a Supernova Dragon, so I'm feeling pretty confident here. Just gonna negate the summon of the Ryzeal Detonator. Feel like that's more than worth it. And here I just feel like, what are you gonna do with that? We're gonna be going first here into a Skystriker deck that actually runs quite a few hand traps, and by that I mean they're running more than they're supposed to a Skystriker, but they're running a few hand traps here and there. So Ash Blossoming the Maxx, and then I go straight for my Red Rising play here. Unfortunately, I'm gonna be seeing another hand trap that honestly Skystrikers should not be running, but they're planning to go into a Typhon to enable their spell and traps. But then they also happen to draw their, I think they are running 2 ghost spells and they happen to draw one of those, right? So great for me, I guess. Well, we still have the Bone Archfiend and we got set up with the Regain, so honestly this could have been way worse, and we do have another Bestial, so we can just easily draw a card and then we can also special summon the Vision Resonator for more plays. This should get us Red Rising, and then we can just make Auxilla. I mean, we could also just have gone immediate Auxilla, but I felt like having some level 6 dragons might be better for the next turn. Like set up some potential plays that can be done next turn if needed. We also just simply add Phalanx here, and then we can go into Dissipator, add back the Crimson Resonator and set up a Scar Red. So the only thing we're kind of lacking on our end board here is probably an Abyss, and all in all we actually managed to do insanely fine into a Ghost Spell and Nibiru that resolve. Reinforcement of the army, I see the Skystriker Ace Ray, and I just know immediate I need to go for a Blazar Dragon. I cannot go for a Supernova Dragon. It also helps that I don't have Red Zone, right? Then I'm not even tempted to go into it, but yeah. And yeah, I actually just let the Typhon resolve. Like, I think they were betting on me negating it with the Solemn Judgment Blazar effect, but hey, I have the Phalanx to just get rid of it, and he scoops up the game. So yeah, we managed to play through a Nibiru and a Ghost Spell like that. So this game is gonna look like one we had way earlier in the video, except they're doing this in the standby phase instead of the draw phase, which actually just allows me to completely block the Murkomo, and yeah, that's pretty nice. They're also under Droll now, so they kind of have to deal with that. We also do have 2 Bestials, so I'm trying to not show that I have something that can be, you know, responding, because I want to catch the Murkomo, because, you know, that's kind of the dangerous one you want to get rid of. And to add to that, I do have a situation here where I can use the Bestial now to make my plays that I couldn't in the previous game. They do also have a Maxx, just like in you know, the other game I had. But yeah, this allows me to do this play line instead into the Murkomo, and also it kind of like, what a chance I had another Bestial, right? I mean, yeah, I used the Bestial to make my play. It looks like I might need to go through this play line, right? And then hit them with the Baldrake. And I'm planning to set up Auxilla with a Blazar Dragon here, and then go into my Red Dragon Archfiend place and completely overkill him. The Blazar Dragon will give me some sort of protection if he has a Nibiru he draws into, or some other hand traps, right? So I just feel like in this scenario, it's pretty much a no-brainer to just set it up immediately. So yeah, we just make the Crimson Dragon go into the Blazar Dragon, and then we do have the Bone Archfiend in the graveyard, and we do have the Soul Resonator. I decide that I do not need the Red Zone because he's already dead. Like, he's already so dead. Like, it's not even close how dead he is. We also just make an Abyss because we can. And we do not fear any hand traps he could draw right now. And this is more than enough to lethal him, and he obviously sees that, so he decides to scoop up the game. We're gonna be going first here into Lunalight. Definitely the wrong thing to Ash Blossom here. Luckily I did have the Foolish Burial in case they saved it for Soul Resonator, or if they had something else. But it does still ruin the kind of play I wanted to go for. It doesn't really matter, we can still set up some stuff here. Go for the Red Rising, bring back the Crimson Resonator, and get impulsed. Yeah. Very unfortunate. I decided to use the Foolish Burial to set up Regain in case, you know, could be Maliss. You never know when you see Ash Impulse, right? That could definitely be a Maliss player. Aside from that, our disruption is not looking too good, and I also decided to just deck thin and maybe set up a card draw on like when they end their turn or something, if I get the chance for it. And there's the Lunalight Fusion. I decide to go for a Crimson Dragon, and I will go for a Supernova Dragon to kind of sort of protect me, and then it also opens up for a potential chance where they set up a lot of things on the board that we can just immediately get rid of. Also, definitely do not put this in attack. I lost an insane game against Lunalight where I put a Chaos Angel in attack, and I would have made such a good replay if I didn't throw it like that. And I mean, I'm talking about it, I'm kind of like, you know, making myself caught on it here, but I don't know, maybe it would have been worth still showing that replay even though I lost, because it kind of shows how I would have won if I just hadn't put in an attack out of habit of, yeah, it's an unaffected Chaos Angel. There's no way they win, right? And then they make their monster plus 3k attack and win the game, right? Kind of a bummer to lose that replay, but there you go. Somehow won due to time limit, not that they had any plays to do anything at that stage. We're gonna be going second here into Fiendsmith, Ryzeal Mitsurugi with, I think they have Horus engine as well, so it's a 60 card deck. It's kind of crazy. Luckily we do have an Evu and a Magnamod that we can use, so we are not entirely without stuff to do here. But yeah, they do have what seems to be full Fiendsmith and Mitsurugi stuff. I'm kind of happy that they are overcommitting this much, because it might mean that I have quite the opportunity to review them stopping their Fiendsmith engine, because they kind of just summoned the Lurry and then went on like this. Kind of crazy. There's no reason to review them immediately, you know. I can just wait for a very good opportunity to get the review on like there. Just discard it so it doesn't get a token. And honestly, just bestial that. Like, what's he gonna do then? Yeah, that's what I thought. Gotta just pass the turn to me, and honestly, just Nibiru and a bestial worked out insanely well there. We also just draw an Ash Blossom in case we need it for something. Called by the Grave is a bit annoying, and we can just Ash Blossom that. Maybe you should have saved the Called by the Grave, huh? Maybe. We have full engine, like we can do resonator stuff, we can do centur-ion stuff. We are looking way too good, and he realizes that when he sees the Oath and decides to scoop up the game. This is gonna be the last replay of the video. I technically had another one, but it just boiled down to, oh, Droll beat Mitsurugi, and there wasn't really anything interesting to show from that game or something we hadn't already seen, so I decided to just cut it, leaving this to be the last game. But this game is kind of exciting though, because we are ending up playing into 2 Fuwalos. They're dropping the other one a bit later, don't worry about it, it's our next draw. So it'll be dropped before I try and special summon something else from the extra deck. But also we just have centur-ion stuff from what it looks like here. But that's why I like archery, right? Gets me RDA engine. Get a bit annoyed if I play a game and it's like, oh, I'm just playing centur-ion here. Like, no RDA stuff at all. It's a bit annoying, but yeah. Got the RDA engine, but they obviously second Fuwalos, very annoyingly so. Set up the Regained, and then I guess I just go Scar Red and pass the turnover with the ability to go into a Supernova Dragon with the red zone. And then obviously we have the Nibiru, and we're gonna get a Bestial for their turn that can be potential disruption as well by tributing something from my field. The Imperm the Scarlet doesn't matter at all, to be honest. And then X, which means I need to go make Crimson Dragon immediately. Now, honestly, I should just not use Crimson Dragon here, but I was thinking, I have ways to out my own Supernova Dragon if they take it, and then I can Bestial it, and then I get to use Supernova Dragon anyways by the red zone, right? But until then, I kind of can't use anything. I need to wait for an opportunity where they either pop my board, like that, or something else that's pretty stupid, right? Maybe getting rid of the Supernova Dragon, and then all my stuff gets unlocked, and I can punish them heavily. But yeah, instead we have to wait out the opponent reaching a point that kind of opens me up. I'm also just fine with him battle facing an ending turn, right? That's another thing, but honestly here he gives me the opportunity. Take the chance now to get rid of that. Why not? Maybe stop some of the level 4 plays, but yeah, now I can set up a chain. I don't know if I needed to use the Scar Red here, but I used it anyways. I think it would have been smarter to maybe not use the Scar Red there, and then Crimson Guy just bring back Scar Red, and then yeah, but I wanted to not risk myself being lethal somehow. And either way, you know, we have the body for the Ball Drake, and I'm fine with just Nibiru if it ends their turn at this stage, right? So they go do a drive here, and hey, Ball Drake forces out the cross, and now the surprise Nibiru is gonna hit them really damn hard when I use it here. So there you go. I have to pass turn, and then when they realize I have Phalanx back and I can easily make a lot of plays happen. They decide that that's enough, and they decide the game is over. And it's time for the deck list section. Now, I'm gonna go over every single card in this list that made it to Master 1 this season, but I also want to let you guys know that I have an upcoming experimental deck list for the Dracotail meta that we have very soon. And I also cut a Bolt Drake from my list at some point during my Master Climb to fit in the Void Apocalypse. I just needed a card that could play better under Droll, but also an option for a starter, basically. And Void Apocalypse fit the bill perfectly. So we have 2 Droll Lockbirds, we have a Synchro Resonator, we have a Chain Resonator, we have 2 Maxx, we have a Crimson Resonator, we have 2 Vision Resonator, we have 3 Ash Blossoms, we have 2 Soul Resonator, we have an Obsessive Whirloop, we have 3 Bone Archfiend, we have Primera, Tudea, and Artree, we have 3 Fuwalos, we have 3 Earthbound Prisoner Stonesweaver, we have a Bestial Magnemod, we have 3 Saunier, we have 3 Druidstream, we have 2 Ball Drakes, we have a Bestial Rebellion, we have 3 Nibiru, we have a Foolish Burial, we have 3 Resonator Call, we have 3 stand-up Centurion, and then we have the Void Apocalypse we spoke of briefly. Then we have a Branded Regained, we have 2 Crimson Gaia, we have a Called by the Grave, we have a Cross-Out Designator, we have 3 Emblem Oath, we have a Wake Up Centurion, we have an Infinite Impermanence, we have a Centurion Phalanx, and we have a Red Zone. As for the extra decks, same as usual, 2 Red Rising Dragons, Kui Belt, 2 Red Dragon Archfiend, Scarlight, Scar Red, Centurion Premier Primus, we have Abyss, we have Dissipator, we have Chaos Angel, we have Blazar Dragon, we have Supernova Dragon, we have Crimson Dragon, and we have an Auxilla. Now this deck list is very experimental, and if you want to copy it, I'm gonna recommend that you cut R3 and Chain Resonator. Why am I recommending that you cut them? Well, these cards are not optimal. They're bricky cards that require a lot of skill to even use in the first place, and despite that, they're still bricks, and they still win more, and they're completely unnecessary for the deck. If you do not believe me, or if you're like, oh well, you play them, so I'm gonna play them too, go ahead. I'm just trying to give you good advice here. These cards are very fun to play with, and I enjoy myself and using my piloting skill to its fullest by having these cards accessible in my deck. But you know, that's just some games where you lose because they were in your hand, and that's the sacrifice I'm willing to make to have more fun in some other games, right? We do have some changes to the deck list, as you can see in the terms of the ghost spells, the Evenly, the Red Reboots, and I believe we have a triple tactics talent. Now, I am not really sure. I kind of want to fit in the third Evenly. I'm not sure if I should cut the Phalanx. I'm not really sure what to do here, but another Evenly would be nice. And obviously, if you cut R2 and Chain Resonator, you can probably put in an extra Evenly and an extra triple tactics talent or something. So that could be pretty good. Not really sure about the bestial count. Maybe it's too much with the Ball Drake. Maybe I should be running more. I'll again have to playtest that. But this is kind of what I'm thinking for this upcoming meta. We do have some hand trap against deck conflicts where Droll is not really going to do anything against the Dracotail deck, right? Which is kind of the deck to beat, but then if we don't run it, we get completely face rolled and steamrolled by other decks like Onomad Ryzeal that are just gonna basically floodgate us, right? So we kind of need him for that. And then Ghost Spell is apparently mandatory at 3, even though I would love to cut this for not being foil. Then apparently it's mandatory at 3, so kinda need that. Then we have the Red Reboot, which Dracotail wants some very annoying traps, we can just stop with it. And then there's obviously the new Odeon deck, which we can also completely stop with the Red Reboot. And I believe Evenly Matched can also do some crazy stuff, both against Dracotail and the Odeon deck. Dracotail has a spell negate, so they can't stop evenly, and I believe that the Odeon deck that is coming only really have, I think, the Apophis, this guy, that can only be used in the main phase, so they can't stop evenly with it. But obviously they might have other traps since they are a back row deck, but just like thinking engine-based stuff, I believe evenly seems like a very good call there. So that's why we're running evenly. I would like to run 3, as I said. I think that kind of covers everything. I will say, if I cannot reach Master 1 because the upcoming meta is so horrible against Red Dragon Archfiend that it's kind of impossible, then there won't be a Master 1 video, obviously. I can't make a Master 1 video if I didn't reach Master 1. I'm still gonna try, but that just won't, right? And aside from that, if you guys badly want to still see some stuff from Red Dragon Archfiend, I mean, until the new support comes out, I can still try and collect the best replays I can, and then do some highlights from washed Master 1 Red Dragon Archfiend player at that stage, right? And then obviously the new support will come out, and I'll start popping off again with some crazy, at least fun for me, deck list. Probably not the most optimal, just like I'm running R3 and Chain, right? But I'll be sure to point out to you guys what is not optimal in my deck list if I choose to run a not optimal deck list. So everything's gonna be kinda good when the new support comes out, either way it goes. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you again next time.